You just need to do the right exercises. Right? Wrong. The two horses on the screen did the same exercises, even though they had a very different start point. But they had complete transformations. In this video, I'm going to walk you through that process, why they did the same exercises, but what they did differently within those exercises to create this transformation. Let's start with the grey pony. The top photo is the before, the bottom photo is the after. What you can see is that he went from upside down to much more connected, much more space, and more muscled over the top line. How was this done and what did it require? So this pony had a very compromised body and he really didn't do very much at all. He did 15 minutes 3 times a week, but what he did do was so correct, it transformed his body from upside down to the bottom photo. So, what did I do in order to create the photo at the bottom of the screen? What we can see in the top photo is this horse is balancing too much over the front, lifting the neck, compressing the entire top line and sticking his bottom up in the air and then grabbing hold of his glutes and bringing his hind legs right underneath him to stabilize. So, when we want to work this pony, we want to unravel some of those things. So when we have this type of balance, we want to try to create more space. So in the exercises this pony did, he needed to take a form that was going to create the possibility of his top line lengthening. So what does that mean? That means he needed to find an activation point where his neck could be more out in front of his body at the correct height so that his spine would start to actually function. This would then enable correct pelvis balance and the ability to actually use his hind end. So this wasn't about what exercises I did. It was about finding the correct form for this particular pony. Currently on the screen is his first ever session. So he lived with me for quite some time, but he didn't actually do any work until I could find that knowledge and confidence to actually take on his compromised body. And so what he did was we tried to create a little bit of space. So we're just literally leading him around. And you can see what happens is he wants to pull up in his neck, come crashing into his shoulders, and then he ends up slamming on the brakes. And then we have to start all over again. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to just first of all communicate and find enough relaxation in him that he can actually create a little bit of space and release so that he's confident enough to let go of that body and to actually be able to connect through that top line. So in this pony's case, the muscles in the underneck worked way too hard. And so what that created was a lack of muscle over the top line. And in order to find the correct neck position, the underside of the neck had to switch off. So that had to become floppy and loose in order for him to be able to engage the top of his neck and find that activation point. So he finds forward momentum at some points when the neck comes more long and out, his jaw comes a little bit more open and forward. That enables him, so here is better, but he finds that quite difficult and then he slams the brakes on again. So that release of his underneck is difficult, and that's what's creating that jamming up effect that means he's not able to keep the flow and find the correct balance point currently to actually activate all of the things that we want him to be able to do. Here's a progress update of where he got to after some of the sessions had paid off. So we start to see that he's able to find more relaxation. He's just generally softer. He's able to relax that neck a little bit more. So he's then able to come a little bit more forward in the head and neck, so that he starts to, you can see in this video that he has a lot more definition within the jugular groove. The muscles don't look so tense and tight, and he's able to take a much bigger stride in the forelimb. We see that his neck has got much longer and the underside of the neck is now able to arc. So he's also able then, because he's actually activating those top lines, the top line muscles, he's able then to actually move a little bit more through his back. So we can see in this video there is much less dip from the withers to the hindquarters. He's much more able to connect that back and find some length through the top line. So in this video, I got through the neck a little bit, through the shoulders. The balance was a lot better. He was able then to connect into the spine. Moving on to the black mare. So the top photo is the before. So what we can see is this horse is not lacking space. It's actually lacking strength and connection. So completely different to the pony. The pony was upside down and pulling in and short and compressed. This one is strung out and disconnected. So what we can see is we've still got a balance problem. Yeah, that we've still got more weight over the forehand than we've got into the hind end in that top photo. We've got quite a straight neck, lacking top line. We've got a weak sort of strung out back, and then the hind legs, instead of being underneath, are out behind. So horses will solve the balance problem by making one of two things happen. Either they tuck under with the hindquarters, or they shove their butt out behind them. And that is helping them then stabilize into that poor balance and poor connection. So you can see by the whole scenario, she's just tipping forward. So with the hind legs out behind, everything is just dragging down into the chest and into the base of neck. She hasn't stabilized by overdeveloping the underside. She's just stabilized by going long and not really connecting, just dropping down. So this horse did the same exercises. So just, little bit of bending, spiraling, figures of 8, changes of direction, especially in the beginning. But she had less compromise in the body at the start. So it's important to take that into consideration. But she required much more of a different approach. She needed to come up. So the head and neck needed to come up and out so that she could actually connect into that lower neck correctly and have more space for the shoulder to actually come much more forward. In the ability to come up and rounder in the neck, then that gave her that possibility again. So we're looking for the head and neck positioning that creates the activation of the spine. So where is that for each individual horse? And when you found that, you then work within that space. So you build that connection further. So your exercises are done in the correct form for that particular horse, rather than you do the exercise and hope the exercise does the work. It doesn't work like that. You're looking for functional form. So what you're looking for is the horse's ability to find that form, the connection, the correct place for the head and neck that activates the back, that allows the shoulder to be free, that allows the abdominals to engage, that allows thoracic sling to lift, that allows the hind legs to step under. That is what you're looking for. And then you're looking for that in the exercises that you do. So, 2 horses, 2 completely different start points, same exercises, different form. Hugely effective results. And in very little time. So very little was done. There wasn't any fancy stuff. There was no training aids, nothing. Just functional form found in order to create those connections so we can really work on finding that ability to actually connect the body in the right way.